My child runs in the room.
Pumpkin!
Hold on, Beth. Shh.
That pumpkin boy.
Okay. Sorry, I pushed live and my child came screaming in here. Like I said, you're gonna have to get used to this. But in either case, I wanted to talk about finding healing spaces in sacrament meeting. The main portion of our church service that we go to together. And you'll probably hear me talk a lot about maybe polarities. That's not a word that we use too much within our church, but Joseph Smith, actually, I wish I'd gotten the quote beforehand, but Joseph Smith actually has a quote where he talks about proving contraries, and that's really where we find the heart of spirituality. I'll have to look it up, but he does talk about this concept of proving contraries. There's another gospel teacher I know online from, I think his podcast is called Unshaken, and he talks about this idea too, but really it's that concept of polarities where there is opposites, not in the sense of good evil opposites, but in the sense of, well, I mean, that could be one of them, but in the sense of there's two things that seemingly contradict each other, and it's trying to like put these two things together that actually produce growth in us. So often, particularly when I'm talking about the LDS community, there's two very huge polarities that we experience, and which I don't know that we've always done a very good job of navigating. We're getting better to some extent, I think, but they're the kind of opposites of, and I talked about this before, we have individuality versus community, and this isn't unique to the LDS faith. It's just that within our faith, this is very much smashed together in some really difficult ways. Namely, we go to church with each other, first off, and are interacting with each other. Within our church, we don't go to the church that we like the best, the pastor more, or like we're kind of just assigned an area, and you go to that church that's your area. So essentially, we're kind of just all put together, not completely randomly, but fairly randomly. So we've got that aspect to it. But then we also have a very heavy, ordered church. And within that structure, there's a very heavy ordered lines of authority and those kinds of things. So very heavy on this kind of church structure and community identity kind of theme. So the individual, it doesn't always necessarily get talked about, and the needs of the individual, trying to meld those two things together is so hard. So they're like incredibly hard, but absolutely necessary. And I do really actually believe that as we work on these two tensions, this tension of community identity versus personal identity, that is where the growth happens. That is where we attain greater spiritual knowledge, enlightenment, and community unity. So that said, in sacrament meeting, I've found some ways. I'm going to talk a lot from my own personal experience because I don't necessarily believe I have the answers for everybody. So I'm just sharing me with you in the hopes that maybe it sparks some ideas. So one way that I find myself within that community group, as well as in reaching out to the community, is during the actual sacrament itself, is the ordinance of the sacrament. I have taken to actually doing a bit of a meditative practice at this time. And I've really just kind of started honing in on this idea of doing a loving kindness. It's a mindfulness term, a loving kindness type of meditation during this time. And I will post a link to some concepts of this, but essentially I focus in on my heart, as particularly as I'm listening to the prayer. I focus in on my heart, connecting to myself and trying to connect to, imagine. I actually do a lot of visualization where I imagine sort of a light. I imagine Christ with me. I imagine his love, right, kind of filling me. Sometimes it's actually helpful to do a bit of a visualization of a light kind of expanding within you. I like that visualization a lot. So imagining that light expanding within you, the light of Christ, the love of Christ. And then, once I kind of sit in that space a little bit, I then extend it outwards. That light, that field of energy goes out to others around me. And I began to think about and ponder and really just kind of contemplate the idea that this light and this love, this connectiveness is then beginning to touch others around me. Well, at the same time, their intention in what they're doing in trying to live their covenant and trying to find Christ and trying to serve others as I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but we all kind of hear the same words. So that idea that as they are contemplating the sacrament, I'm contemplating the sacrament, and our fields of love and energy can kind of touch each other. That brings me a lot of peace, because I'm then not alone in this. I'm with others. So it allows me to reach out to others, and then I feel others reaching to me also. There's also various other things that I think about during sacrament. I think I'm going to mention two more. One of them is to enter sacrament with a sense of curiosity. We can often get bored, I think, or maybe we're just irritated with the person who's talking, or the person next to us, or the family down in the next pew over, whatever it is. But in those kinds of situations, I like to bring my sense of curiosity to that situation. So even if there's a speaker that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not aligning with this speaker, if I ask myself, what is this person's intention? Where are they finding goodness in their life? How are they trying to share that goodness with me? How can I see them like a child of God? Can I see them as, a daughter or son of heavenly parents? Who are they really? Like, can God show me who they are? So this sense of curiosity that then allows me to kind of interact with them in a different way. So there's that. The second thing I want to mention doing is this idea that we're actually, as a community, learning empathy. Or I should say I don't know what other people are trying to do, but it offers us the opportunity to learn empathy, because essentially we are placed within a spectrum of different thoughts, beliefs, and ideas and individuals. And I love the idea of, as we sing together, we are sharing with each other. As we are praying together, we are able to touch each other. And maybe even that idea of curiosity brings me to this thought of who are the people around me really. So I really love the concept we have as being children of God, and to, again, acknowledge that and try and develop some empathy for them. Something that I just heard not too long ago that was really interesting is that pride is actually a response to us not wanting to feel hurt for other people, and so we put up these blocks of superiority, or I know better, or I don't need to listen to you, or you're just that person. Or I think sometimes we see in our church this idea that it's horrible leaders and they're doing an awful job. So that kind of puts up these blocks because we don't want to feel pain. But as we allow that to kind of melt away, we are capable then of feeling empathy with the person in front of us. Doesn't mean we have to agree with them, but we can develop a sense of understanding and care for them. So it just, I don't know, it provides that space for us to do that. That's all. It's not that we all do that perfectly. In fact, I think we're incredibly imperfect. The other thought that I actually just heard too was, and I love this idea, that we don't go to church to resolve doubt. And I know that is a little strange for people because we think we go there to get all of our problems fixed. So when we talk about healing, right, we're like, I'm coming to church so that I can feel healed. In my opinion, and in my experience, I should just say in my experience, that's not what happens. In fact, sometimes church feels difficult. But as we bring our doubt, as we bring our questions, as we bring our pain to the community, there is an opportunity for us to develop again that empathy and then a connection. So instead of us trying to solve each other's problems or fix the other person or somehow make everything okay for everybody, we're actually sitting in what I like to call holding a place where we're holding space for each other. We're that connecting space. It's more of a relationship space. So we're sitting in pain with each other. We're not fixing it. We're sitting with it. Now, whether or not that happens is a whole other ballgame, but that's what I work towards, actually, because that is a space where it provides me with that opportunity And it provides me with an opportunity to be in that space with other people that I, at least, the idea is that we've made these covenants as a people, and we are trying as a people, as a community, right, to follow God. Again, I don't know what other people are really or really not trying to do, but that is kind of the idea of it, that we are actually a people that are trying to follow God. So to be able to bring myself to that space with other people that are also bringing themselves to that space, just allows me that opportunity. Again, to me, it's all about the opportunity that's presented us. So that's some of my thoughts there to hopefully help you find some healing in that space, because those are things that I have found healing, and it has more to do with connectivity with other people than actually agreeing with each other or feeling like somebody has to give something to us so that we feel comfortable there. I think next time I may step into more this concept of holding space, because while I do think church isn't meant to be comfortable, actually it's meant to be a growth space for us, especially as we're trying to be in community with other people who are completely different than us. We don't like that. But what I also want to talk about, and I'll do this next time, is this concept of holding space for other people. And I mentioned that this time because I think we do have an obligation to try and allow space for other people to be there who may otherwise feel uncomfortable. So that's the end of this video, and maybe, I don't know when I'll get to the next one, but I think that I will talk about holding space.